Hello again, I am Blunty. Let's have a talk about cyberbullying, internet bullying. I don't think there's many people out there who have never experienced some form of bullying in their life, whether it be as far back as school or in the workplace or in a group of friends or, being harassed by a bunch of dude bros at a bar or something because, you're not wearing fancy enough clothes or the girl you're with is out of your league or something like that. That happened to me once. Maybe I'll tell that story someday. The point is, at some point in their life, someone's been bullied, either on a one-off occasion or on an ongoing basis. Like going through school, a lot of us face ongoing bullying. It can last for, days or weeks or months. But very rarely does, a single bullying issue go all the way through your entire life. Certainly does for some people. Now, in today's video, I wanted to talk about Alinity. Not specifically about her, but she makes a useful lens, a useful current event to help me talk about this in a way I wanted to talk about it for quite some time now, but couldn't quite find the right angle to focus sharply enough on it. So Alinity, I woke up this morning, Alinity was trending, and there's a clip of a video out there. She broke down in tears because of the bullying that she faces.
Like, I just don't know what to do. Like, do I stop streaming? Is that the only way that people are gonna ever leave me alone? Like, it's my livelihood, you know? And it's been my livelihood for 8 years. Like, what am I gonna do?
And I know what some of you are already thinking. Haha, she deserved it. She did a bad thing, and she should be held responsible for that bad thing. And that's true. But it's also true what she asks. When is it enough? In our justice system, we have a system of checks and balances, and if someone is found guilty of doing a bad thing, there is a proportional punishment for that, or ideally a proportional punishment for that. A certain amount of wrongdoing equals a certain amount of punishment, whether that be a fine of $100 or $50,000, or you go to jail for 3 months or the rest of your life. Checks and balances and scales, and hopefully a balance of wrongdoing versus punishment. And that's the problem with mob mentality. Those scales don't exist. Alinity has spent the entirety of every single waking moment of her life since she made any given mistake, having people scream at her about that mistake. Anytime she opens her mouth, anytime she posts anything on Twitter or any social media or her own stream or wherever it is, there's this fire hose of bullying and hatred and mocking and toxicity just hosed at her constantly. So let's talk about empathy for a second. I want you to think about something you did in public or in a group of friends that you're embarrassed by, that you feel genuinely ashamed by. Not, oh, how silly was I? Something you said or did that made you feel a huge swell of genuine guilt and shame. Now I want you to think about if everybody you ever interacted with screamed at you about that. Every time you turned around, there was another person going, hey, you did this thing. Everywhere you go online, everywhere you go in real life, every time you turn around or have an interaction with someone, there's someone screaming that at you. There's a group of people screaming that at you. There are people mocking you for it. There are people, making memes about it constantly. How quickly do you think that would get under your skin? Even if you're like me, I don't need a lot of external validation. So a lot of the time when people are pouring hate in my direction or derision or mocking me or making fun of me or, screaming at me for a wrong thing I did, it does tend to roll off my back, water off a duck's back, or, ignore the haters and just don't pay attention to them. Or, even if you are an expert at tuning that stuff out, it still has an effect.
Don't listen to trolls. Just accept that you made a mistake because you are a human being.
I have, Jack, but do I really have to read thousands and thousands of messages every day about the mistakes I've made in my past?
The best one is
that really what I have to do?
You have been through a lot.
You step into a really hot bath, hot, and you sit there for a second and you adjust to how hot the bath is. Maybe if you move or splash, you go, oh right, that's really, really hot. But you adjust to it. And for the sake of argument, let's say the bath stays at the same temperature. There's a heater in the bath, although the rules of thermodynamics have been suspended for this metaphor. You can spend as long as you like in that bath, neck deep in this hot water, and you're comfortable with it. You're not paying attention to how hot it is, but your skin is still going to wrinkle up over time. And it's the same thing with hatred and bullying and targeted harassment. It doesn't matter how good you are at ignoring it. That hot water, that background noise is always ever present. And there is no way it can't affect your own mental health. So I feel part of this group that's always screaming at Alinity or anyone else in the public eye about, whatever the horrible thing they did, however many, months or years ago it was, or even how many times you engaged with the mob in this bullying. You are still contributing to making someone else's life much worse than it should be. Where is the balance for the crime and punishment in this? When is it enough? And this is something Alinity asked. She's sorry for what she's done. I believe her. She's learned from what she's done. I believe her. I still won't watch her content because I can't forgive her for feeding a cat vodka. Anybody with a straight head on should have known that was a bad idea. Tremendously bad idea. So I can't forgive her for that. And that just means I'm not going to engage with her on social media. Not that I ever did, but I'm not going to go watch her streams. Not that I ever really did. But the point is, persona non grata. She's just a person who I don't care to support in even a passive way. Put her over there, ignore her, done. But the people who are actively engaged in trying to make sure she gets punished enough for what she's done, regardless of how many times she's apologized, regardless of whether she's demonstrated she's learned from her past mistakes and have changed her behavior and adjusted her behavior, I believe she has, and I believe she does. And for those out there who, well, we're only targeting her because Twitch won't do anything. Well, let's imagine Twitch did something. Let's imagine she was banned for 2 weeks, a month, 3 months. Do you honestly think for an instant that when she came back, she wouldn't be victim to exactly the same kind of abuse all over again, day after day after day? Do you think everyone, she was banned for 3 months, all is forgiven, and they never mention it again? Do you honestly think that's how it would go? Because I'm here to tell you, no, it wouldn't. And the worst part about all this is a lot of people out there aren't even that interested in, making Alinity pay for her crimes. She has become the scapegoat for what they see as flaws in Twitch's inconsistencies in enforcing their own rules, or they use her as the figurehead for everything they see is wrong in pretty female streamers. And they think, the only reason they're popular is because they're pretty and female and they have a high camera and low cut tops. And suddenly she becomes the sacrificial goat for all of these people as well. I don't particularly like Alinity. Don't even know her. I've never interacted with her in any meaningful way, but I still feel empathy for that. I mean, imagine living like that. Imagine your day-to-day life living like that. So I don't need to forgive this behavior to feel empathy for what she's going through. And if what you think she did is unforgivable, fine. But at what point does the screaming mob mentality become you being a worse person than she ever was for whatever mistake it was you're angry at her about? At some point, that balance tips and you become a tremendously worse person than she is. You become the hypocrite in this. You become just this horrible, horrible person doing everything you can or contributing to a mob, a blind, angry mob of doing anything and everything they can to make one person's life so tremendously worse for a mistake. Alinity has spent God knows how long now being ridiculed, mocked, screamed at, bullied every single waking moment of her life when she's interacting with the outside world in any way. Isn't that enough already? Can't you just move past it yourself as a person? Can't you just get beyond it? You don't have to watch her streams or interact with her on Twitter. You don't have to support her in any way. But at what point have you poured out enough of your bitterness into her that you think it makes it okay? Is there a point? And at what point does that become you being a terrible person? And what sort of punishment do you think you deserve for being that terrible person? But at some point, you just have to let it go. If not for their benefit, then for your own. because boiling yourself in this constant aggressive hatred is going to damage you as well. So even if you are the most selfish person on the face of the planet and you cannot build even a slither of empathy for what someone else is going through, if you're an honest to goodness sociopath who cannot feel empathy or sympathy towards another human being, you cannot comprehend, the theory of mind, their emotions, you can't feel what they must be feeling, you can't put yourself in their shoes, even if you are the purest sociopath out there, even if you're the most selfish person on the face of the planet, at some point letting go of this is good for yourself. And again, I speak from the voice of experience. I used to be someone who got obsessed with hatred and bitterness and vengeance, and every time someone's name would come up in conversation, it would just change my entire mood and demeanor, and all I could think about was how much I fucking hated them. You gotta let that shit go. Otherwise it makes you it makes you and your life. You become a terrible person and your life becomes more miserable because of it. Let it go. For everybody's sake. If you're doing it for yourself, fine. If you're doing it for someone else because you actually experience empathy, then better. But God damn it, let it go. Enough is enough at some point. Right?